clients arrive for their appointment, they're not wearing any makeup. But this girl wore makeup to the appointment just to have me take it off and then do her makeup again. I thought that was a little strange, but after I removed her makeup, I saw her nose. The tip of her nose was bright red and even a little bit deformed. It looked like a really, really bad sunburn. I tried to avoid the area when I started doing her makeup, but eventually I had to put makeup on her nose. And when I did, it was just not working. Her skin was literally peeling off. The makeup would not stay. So that's when I asked her, is there something going on with your nose that I should know about? Let me also just say that at this point, it was starting to swell and was noticeably more red than it was when she got there. That's when she told me that she had recently been out of the country for a mission trip and that she had picked up a flesh-eating bacteria, which had affected her nose. Then she told me not to worry because she had been on antibiotics for months, and that the irritation on her nose was just her skin healing. For once, I was horrified, not my client.
How I met my soulmate without ever actually speaking to him. I work at a small family-owned ice cream shop. This really cute guy would come in every Friday around 5. I never actually took his order as I was the one making the cones and sundaes behind the counter. He would always tell my coworker taking the orders, I want whatever she's in the mood to make. Tell her to surprise me. And he would point me out. My coworker would deliver the message and he would look at me and smile. Each Friday when he came in, he would say, I'll have my regular order, whatever she wants to make. I made him something different every week. I try to be creative and give him something new and fun every time. I would try really hard not to look over at his booth, but I would always catch myself staring. He started leaving me little flirty messages on his receipt with a small cash tip at his table. I started to write back on his orders with caramel or chocolate sauce on his plate the best I could. However, it wasn't very legible or practical, so I started giving him flirty little sticky notes with his order. It made my Fridays really fun and something to look forward to. I was waiting for him to ask me for my number or to ask me out on a date so we could actually talk to each other. This went on for weeks until he finally made the cutest move ever. How I met my soulmate without ever actually speaking to him. After a few weeks of writing to each other on receipts, he finally decided to shoot his shot. He came in at his usual time, and I immediately started making him something new that I had in my head all day. Sweet cream ice cream with Oreos and little heart-shaped candies that I brought from home just for this. As always, he left me his note on the receipt with a tip, but it was special this time. It said, it's my turn to make you something. Meet me at Jasmine's Fine Kitchen tomorrow at 9 p.m. The restaurant he was referring to was in the same parking lot where I work. I went home and spent about 2 hours trying to figure out what I was going to wear for my date. I showed up the next night to the restaurant, ready to finally talk to this guy. I walked in and I saw him waiting for me at a really nice table in the back of the room. The first thing he said to me was, "What can I get you tonight, miss?" with a huge smile on his face. It turns out he works as a cook at the restaurant. I of course told him to surprise me, just like he would always request from me. He went to the back and immediately came out with a 3-course meal that he had already prepared for us. We had the most amazing date and the rest is history. He still comes in every Friday to get his surprise ice cream order for me.
When you're in a long-term relationship, you'll often find yourself doing this thing with your partner where you'll say, when we have kids, I hope they have this trait of yours. And today my husband was like, I hope our kids will be as resilient and determined as you. When I was 11 years old, I got in a fight with my mum when she was picking me up from school, and I was being so rude that she wanted to teach me a lesson and scare me a little bit. So she said, you can find your own way home. Left me outside of my classroom, got in her car and drove off. Now, realistically, she was just doing the block and was going to come back and pick me up, hoping that I would be apologetic. But I wasn't. I was very stubborn and was like, I can find my own way home, and I decided to run home. I in fact sprinted from the school grounds and ran into a close family friend who offered to give me a lift, which I accepted, and I got home by my own means. Now, my mum did do the block and not only came back to me not being where she left me, but to one of my friends saying, yeah, I saw her get in the car with some weird guy. Imagining my mum's soul leaving her body that day is enough for me to not ever want kids, let alone kids like me.
I will never, and I mean never, forget the time that we had a male sub in high school and a girl asked to go to the restroom and he said sure. So she grabbed something and he heard a rapper and he was like, oh, if you're going to eat candy, you can do it in here, but you have to share with everyone in the class. And she was like, what? And he was like, well, I heard the rapper. And she whips out a tampon, shoves it in his face, and she goes, you want to share? Oh, girl, savage.
You should think twice about moving in with your friends. My friend Amy and I decided to get an apartment together. We've been friends for a while and she's the type of friend that I could never get sick of and always hang out with. The first issue we had was when she started bringing her boyfriend over a few nights a week, which was fine at first. However, he started coming over more frequently to the point where he was there 6 nights a week. Her boyfriend also always parked in my designated spot, leaving me nowhere to park. On top of that, Amy and I decided we would go shopping together for food every few weeks and split the grocery bill. But her boyfriend is over constantly eating all the food that we bought, and this guy can eat. Amy also complained that the AC bill is too high guy and we need to stop turning down the temperature so much and, I quote, open the windows and rough it. I went to work one day and came back and the apartment felt almost as hot as it was outside, which was over 100 degrees. My dog lives with us, so I always try to keep the apartment cool. I immediately checked on him and went to turn on the AC. But to my shock, Amy had taken the control panel off of the wall and hid it so I couldn't adjust the temperature. I called her furious and explained to her that she could have killed my dog, to which she replied, I'm not going to leave the AC on all day when we're gone for a stupid dog. This is when things took a turn for the worse. Why you should think twice about moving in with your friends. After everything that happened, I knew I needed to get out and start looking for another arrangement. The next night I came home late after studying with some friends. I went straight to my room, turned on the lights, and almost had a heart attack when I saw a guy laying in my bed in just his boxers. I started screaming and freaking out, and that's when Amy rushed into the room. She said it was her boyfriend's friend that got too drunk when they went out and he needed to sleep it off. I couldn't believe she put this passed out drunk disgusting guy in my bed. At this point I was seeing red and I was about to fight her. But I left to my mom's for the night before I did anything I would regret. That same night one of my friends sent me a screenshot. Amy had posted in a local Facebook group about how she's looking for a new roommate to replace her horrible current roommate. I couldn't believe that in her mind I was the horrible one. The next day I took some friends and packed up all of my things. While I was packing, Amy had the audacity to come into the room and ask me if I was still going to pay for next month's rent. When I refused, she tried to guilt trip me into telling me if I want to keep our friendship, then I need to pay. I told her that nothing could save our friendship at this point and I left. I haven't talked to her since.
Anyone who gets a period, this video is for us. When I was in middle school, I really appreciated this teacher who would let the girls go to the bathroom whenever we wanted. And the guys would complain that they had to wait 20 minutes at least after lunch so that they could use the restroom. And the teacher would always remind them, you guys are boys and these are young ladies and they don't always have to just relieve themselves in the restroom. And I didn't even realize that that was just basic human decency for people who have periods until I got to high school. When I was a junior in high school, I was sitting in class and I felt like I was bleeding. And so I told my teacher that I had to use the restroom. And he told me I couldn't go because it was the first 15 minutes of class. And I told him, it's an emergency. I really have to use the restroom. And he said, you should have thought about that at lunch. And because I'm not going to sit here and bleed through my pants, I was like, I'm menstruating really loud in front of the whole class. And he was shocked and so uncomfortable. He started doing that thing where he tries to laugh like, and all my 20 years of teaching, no one has ever told me that. And I just sat there and wondered how many girls before me had to sit in their own blood.
17, my family actually forgot about my birthday, so when I told my best friend, she felt really bad for me and convinced her family to do something with me. So they took me out to eat at a restaurant where they throw like bread rolls at you, and they told the waitress that it was my birthday. So the waitress asked me to stand up, and I was like, no, but everyone kept staring at me, and my best friend was like, just stand up. So I stood up, and the waitress announced to everyone in the room that it was my birthday, and she asked everyone to sing happy birthday with her, but absolutely nobody sang, so it was quiet. So I slowly sit back down on my chair and I look over to my friend and she's just laughing because this is hilarious to her. And then I look over at the waitress and she looks scared and she starts giving me a bunch of extra bread rolls and she's like, I am so sorry. Needless to say, it was very awkward and a birthday that I will never forget.
Sharing more stories of things that happened to me while I was younger that I've kept secret for my entire life and haven't told anybody, so here's another story. Fair warning, this video might be a little triggering. I was really young at the time. I don't exactly remember what age. I was around 8 or 13 years old. Me and my friends were going to this haunted maze and it was around Halloween time. It was one of my friend's parents that was taking us there and it was a group of 5 or 6 of my friends. While me and my friends were going through this maze, we were standing in a line and I was standing in the very back. So while we were walking, I ended up tripping on my shoelace and I fell to the side where there was curtains. It was the curtains where the workers would pop out and try to scare you. When I fell, I tried to yell for my friends, but because of the sound effects of the maze, they couldn't hear me. And by the time I got up, they were gone. So I started walking and I eventually got to a place where you could only go right or left, and I went left. And once I went left, I ended up in a circular room where there was 5 passageways. But there was also a group of teenage boys and I didn't even see them at first. All I know is I turned around and got grabbed, like for part 2 of the time I got lost in a haunted maze. Like I said, I lost track of my friends and I was looking for my friends and I ended up in a part of the maze where there was all these guys that I didn't even see at first. All I know is I turned around and I got grabbed. So I screamed. I was super young at the time. I was defenseless. I didn't know what to do. Those guys seemed like they were around their teenage years and they were laughing and making a joke out of it. One of them was laughing and they told their friend, grab her legs. And so the friend grabbed my legs and they were tugging me and pulling me. And then they started to pull my pants down. Panic was filling over my body. I couldn't even scream. When you're young, you'd always think you know what to do at these moments, but you really don't. You just freeze up. And that's exactly what I did. I just froze up. But thankfully, as soon as I felt my pants starting to get pulled down, another group of people turned the corner, and that's when the boys dropped me and ran. Like for part 3. Part 3 of the time I got lost in a haunted maze. Like I said, another group of people started to turn the corner. That's when the boys dropped me and they ran. Those group of people didn't really get to see what was going on, so they asked me if I was okay, and I told them that I was good. Me being super young and scared, I didn't really want to tell them what happened. My parents were also really iffy about me going out, and I didn't want there to be a situation that would make them not trust me anymore. So they started to walk me out of the maze, you guys. And I'm guessing we were nearing towards the exit. But as we were nearing towards the exit, I completely forgot about the boys. I had realized that I didn't have a bracelet that I was wearing. Me being young and trying not to annoy the people that found me and were helping me get out of the maze, I wanted to turn around, but I didn't want to tell them that I needed to turn around because I lost something. So I ran back. As I was running back trying to find this bracelet in this maze, I had ran into the same group of teenage boys who assaulted me. Like for part 4. Part 4 of the time I got lost in a haunted maze. I had lost something in the maze, and once I ran back to find it, I had ran into the same group of teenage boys who assaulted me. Like I said previously, I had completely forgotten about these boys. How did I forget about these boys? I'm not sure. I was very young, very dumb, and I wish I wasn't scared at the time to tell those people who were walking me out of the maze that I had lost something, because I'm sure they would have been nice enough to help me find it. But I was scared. I didn't want to annoy them. So as soon as I saw those boys, I was thinking life or death. Why was I thinking life or death? I'm not sure, but that was my instinct. So I took it upon myself to do the dash, and I ran and ran and ran, and I did not look back. I didn't remember which way to go out of the maze, but I somehow did make it out. Thankfully, the Lord was really watching over me that day. And once I got out, I was screaming for my friends. I was screaming their names. I was looking for them everywhere. Eventually, I found my friends, and I just hugged one of them and started bawling.
This is why you should never leave the table when you're on a blind date. One of my best friends and I worked at the same restaurant. When I came in later that day for my shift, she told me a crazy story. She said that her first table were this guy and this girl, and she could tell they were on a first date. The girl was nervous, so she ordered a glass of wine. As far as she knew, the date seemed to be going well, and the girl got up to go to the bathroom. Right when my friend was about to come over and bring the silverware, she saw him put something in her wine. My friend, obviously terrified and freaking out, let our manager know, who then let the police know, and ran into the bathroom to tell her what was going on. The girl ended up staying in the bathroom until the police came, arrested him, and escorted him out of the building. It was noon on a Tuesday. You don't think you're going to be drugged at noon on a Tuesday.